even if you're self-employed like me, where you really don't have a rigid schedule because you can kind of do whatever you want, I recommend, if at all possible, make a schedule for yourself. You might not have a boss that's breathing down your neck, wondering where you are at 8:01 because work starts at 8 o'clock, but you should still have some sort of sense of, I'm going to start working at this time, and then I'm going to work for this many hours, and then I'm going to stop and have a lunch break, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be done with work. Why? It's good for your mind, it's good for your productivity, and it's also good for the people around you if you have anybody who is at home with you. Technically, since I'm self-employed, I can work whenever I want, or I could not work whenever I want. But I'm really good about making sure that if I'm going to take a Tuesday off, for example, that I let people know to some extent so that they're not wondering where I am and why I'm not responding to emails. Also, something I struggle with, but something that's important, is giving my clients an understanding of what time I start and end work. If you're self-employed or if you're working from home, it's easy to be checking your phone at 10:15 on a Friday night. And it's easy for people who know that about you to expect you to respond. If you don't set a clear expectation of, here's when I start, here's when I stop, then people might send you an email at 5:45 in the morning and be irritated that you haven't responded by 8:07. Or towards the end of the day, it could be that somebody sends you an email at 9:30 p.m. and is wondering why you haven't responded by midnight. Working from home, as I've said, requires discipline, not only for yourself, but also for holding that line. If you tell your clients, I'm available starting at 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., then you need to stick to that so they respect that. But also, it's important for your own self, because it's so easy when you work from home just to, those boundaries between work and life and home and personal and professional, they start to blur, and it gets a little bit confusing. And then maybe your family wonders, are you working? Are you not working? And maybe you start to wonder, I don't know, am I working? Am I not working? Is it irresponsible for me to be watching a movie at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning? I don't know. I can't decide for you. But you need to decide what that is for yourself. What is your schedule? What time do you start? What time do you stop? One thing that I can promise you is, being self-employed, if I tell people that I stop work at a certain time, they'll respect that as long as I do. Meaning, if I've told them that I stop work at, say, 6 p.m., but I actually respond to emails at 9:15, they'll start to get in the habit of thinking, well, he's available at 9:15 p.m. because last time I emailed him about this, he responded. Set a schedule that you can respect for your sake and for their sake. If you have a family, like I do, they probably already have their own schedule. And if you're struggling to create a schedule that works for you and them, try to piggyback on their schedule as much as possible. For example, when my kids wake up in the morning and they start getting ready for school, that's a great time for me to get up because the house is really loud. There is clanging pots and pans and dishes and kids yelling and hairbrushing and door slamming and singing and all kinds of things that are totally distracting, and I can't sleep through that. So even if I wanted to say, well, I'm self-employed, so I should be able to get up at a later hour, that may be true, but it's just not going to happen. So I can use the time that they start in the morning as a good starting point for me because it's already written in stone. They're going to school at this time, which means they're going to get up at this time no matter what. I should use that to my advantage. I should use that as a cue. That's a good time for me to make sure I'm already up and awake and working. Similarly, if I know, for example, that my kids come home from school at 3:45, and they always do, that's a great time for me to know that I should do something else, because when they come home, it's going to be so loud. In my house, 3:45 is the craziest, most chaotic time of day. So I use that as my cue to be gone by 3:30. I try to hit the gym, I try to take a walk, whatever it is I do. Sometimes I go to my co-working space just a couple miles down the road. Whatever it is that I need to do to get out of the house, that's the time to do it. Because I know, like clockwork, at 3:45, the house is going to be full of chaotic, crazy noise. I also know that's a terrible time for me to try to have phone calls or video conferences. So if a client says, hey, can you talk at 4 o'clock or can you talk at 3:45? I have to be careful to say, no, I can't. I don't need to be very specific about the reason why, but I need to be honest about the fact that, no, that's a really terrible time for me. Can we do it at 4:30 or 5 o'clock or before then? Typically for me, when I'm working with clients, I try to make sure that all my phone calls and video conferences can happen before 3:45. So whatever your family schedule is or your house schedule with your roommates or housemates or your family members or whatever that natural schedule is that they already have, if you can fit your schedule around it, it will go well with you and there will be less friction.